My name's Clark Carlisle. I'm a retired professional footballer who's played in front of huge crowds. I've won trophies, represented my country and earned a good living. And all the while, I've suffered from depression. This year I presented a programme called Football Suicide Secret, focusing on suicide and depression. And ever since then, the floodgates have opened in response. I was suffering from major depressive disorder. It's so hard to describe how illogical your thoughts are when you're in depression. It's madness. One Midlands-based mental health charity, Kaleidoscope Plus, invited me to get involved with their 40-year anniversary. And it got me thinking, I wasn't even born when they first opened their doors in 1973. I wonder how attitudes have changed.
Mental health affects people in lots of different ways. Depression is a sign of mental health illness. Stress is a mental health condition, and people don't always recognise that as being a mental health condition when it is. And there's lots of people in our everyday lives who experience these situations.
I think attitudes have changed massively. There's a lot less stigma around talking about mental health and having a mental health condition. Although the language has changed, it's not necessarily about saying you've got a mental health condition, it's about how people feel. It's about their wellness rather than an ill health.
I think there is a small change in terms of attitudes to people who have mental health problems or mental illness. Unfortunately, I still think there's a huge stigma to having a mental health illness, and particularly there's a perception by people who are diagnosed with having a depressive disorder, say, who feel they can't declare that to their work because they feel they will be stigmatised against. So although there are some improvements, I think we have a long way to go until we see mental disorder on a par with physical disorder.
Even now, people are still reluctant to admit that they have a mental illness. But hopefully times are changing. What's your experience been?
Well, it was about 3 years ago when I had my mental health breakdown. At the time, I thought, no, there's nothing wrong with me, but it took about 3, say 4, 5 sessions before I thought, hang on, this isn't normal what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't normal at all. I need help.
The number of referrals, I think, has increased. People are still ambivalent about accepting appropriate treatment because there is a perception that if you've got a depressive disorder, for example, you should be able to pull yourself together. And there's a lack of understanding about the importance of the role of medications and other cognitive behavioural therapy treatments which may be of benefit to people.
40 years ago, if you were mentally ill, they'd have thrown you in here. This is the All Saints Asylum in the grounds of Birmingham Prison. It closed its doors for the last time in 2001. But as attitudes have changed, so have the treatments and therapies.
Treatment of mental health disorders is moved from institutions to community treatment, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, some people do become so unwell, they do need inpatient treatment of an intensive nature.
In the past, there was a degree of, I suppose, reliance on medication. You tended to go to your GP, they'd prescribe you whatever medication and you'd go away and take it and hope everything would get better. Things aren't necessarily the same now. We do talk about complementary therapies helping with mental health conditions. We talk about well-being therapies helping with mental health conditions. There's things like counselling as well. So you're not always necessarily reliant on drugs.
For some GPs, they've made an attempt to educate themselves about mental health and about stress and anxiety and depression and the implications on their clients. And I think there's more of a shift towards let's do the talking therapies before we prescribe.
Heather, I'm only used to conventional modes of therapy, that being talking one-to-one and stuff like that. So what does this do? How does this help me therapeutically?
It's really therapeutic because it involves touch. It's a great way of distracting yourself as well and escaping from any problems that you have. So you can either think about it while you're working through the clay or you can forget completely.
So how long have the charity been running these alternative therapies, Heather?
For about 5 years, since the New Economic Foundation developed their 5 Ways to Wellbeing, we have been delivering services like this based on the 5 Ways to Wellbeing. which are connect, take notice, keep learning, be active and give. The 5 ways to wellbeing work really, really well because you can connect and we're taking notice now, and you can create something to give. So yeah.
So it fulfills quite a few of the 5 ways just in one activity.
Yeah.
Because one of the thoughts that I heard about all of these creative therapies are that it's also a very good way of expressing emotion.
Yeah.
Have you found that in around the sessions that you've done?
Definitely. I think clay is so successful as well, this workshop in particular, because you can bash the rolling pin and it's just a safe container to express yourself. You're not hurting anyone by showing anger and frustration, and if you let it out here, you go away feeling calm and relaxed.
You know, there are many different facets to mental health and mental health issues. Would this be something that's suitable for all, or do you only use this for specific issues or ages? Or?
It's suitable for everyone and anyone, which is why it works so well. It's really accessible. You don't have to be a sculptor to just play with clay. So yeah, it works really well with everyone and any culture as well.
Okay.
And it's quite good because it's really messy. So and you can play in it, and yeah.
There's a recognition that alternative treatments do have a role to play in the treatment of some mental illnesses, but certainly you still need biological treatments and drug treatments and specialist psychotherapy treatments, which currently there is inadequate access to within the community.
Of course, nothing is perfect or fail-safe. There have been a handful of tragic incidents in the Midlands over recent years involving people with severe mental health issues. But we have to ask, are we moving in the right direction?
There needs to be more of services like Kaleidoscope, so people have access to a range of different therapies and treatment, because I think often people need to know that they're not the only person who suffers with that illness, so seeing other people who've been through the same kind of difficulties as they have is helpful. The Royal College of Psychiatrists would state there's no health without mental health. So I think things will improve. How rapidly they'll improve is difficult to say, because over the years I've been doing psychiatry myself, which is quite a long time, things haven't improved as much as I would have hoped they might improve. But I think there's signs of some optimism there.
I think we have got a long way to go, but I do think they'll change. I feel that mental health at the moment is like cancer was, say, 10, 15 years ago. People didn't tend to speak about cancer very much. It used to be the C word. But now, you know, lots of people talk about cancer. Lots of people, although it's obviously it's not a nice condition to have, people are a lot more optimistic about the treatment that's available. I feel mental health is going that way slowly but surely. It will take time, but I do feel we'll get there.
Third sector organisations and charities like Kaleidoscope Plus have been at the forefront of the campaign to change attitudes, to remove the stigma, and to maintain a positive approach to mental health and well-being. And they're not going to stop, because there's so much more work to do.
You know, when people are finally well in themselves, you still have step backs. Like, you know, you feel like you're doing great, then all of a sudden something happens, you get anxious again, you take a step back, you've got to recover again. It's important that you keep your mind occupied.